I'm Barry Johns, and this is Studio Talk. Well, probably at the end of this, you're probably either going to love me or you're going to hate me. There's probably no in between, but I got to say what I got to say today. But before I get into that, do me a favor. If you like the content I put out, do me a favor, hit that like and subscribe and notification bell so you know when I got a new video out. I really appreciate it. Now, let's get on to the topic at hand. I think many of us have made the mistake and continue to make the mistake of buying things that we don't need for our studio. We see these videos on YouTube where that's the next and greatest thing. I've got to have it because it sounded great or it looked great in that particular video. Okay, it probably did sound great and it probably did look great in that video. But is that tool, whatever it may be, is it going to necessarily make that big of a difference in your recordings at the end of the day compared to what you already own? Now, there's the kicker. Compared to what you already own. Today, I'm going to talk about plugins because if you haven't realized it or not, plugin manufacturers have realized that we're weak, that we don't really think. We're knee-jerk reactors to the next and greatest thing. I mean, all you got to do is look at a plug-in manufacturer like Waze, excuse me, but who puts out a plug-in every 5 minutes for $35, okay? You got to ask yourself, why do they need to put so many plugins out when they already have so many? Shouldn't their plugins that they've already got out be sufficient? Shouldn't they be compelling? And if there's some reason they're not, shouldn't they just upgrade those? Maybe rewrite the code and maybe make a better version of those? I mean, that's kind of what they probably should do, right? But no, they're coming out with this or that. Now, if you think for 1 second, all of these famous mix engineers that we all know and love, okay? If you really think that their endorsed plugins are going to make you sound like them, they're not. They're not. Okay? They're just at the second end of their careers and nothing wrong with what they're doing, but they're making money off you when you buy those plugins. You've got Chris Lord-Alge who will sell his name out to anybody or anything out there. And I think it's sad for him because he is so talented and has such a great reputation, but he puts his name on just about anything out there. And he's turned himself into a great salesman. So we've got to be wise about these things and think about these things. You know, let's take that out of it for a second. First of all, let me say this. There's plenty of great plug-in manufacturers out there. I mean, there's some ones that I really, really like and respect a lot. You know, some of the ones that I really like a lot, I like Softube. I think they do a fantastic job. You know, a lot of people swear by Acoustica plugins, Acoustic Audio, I think it's called. You know, and although I don't have a ton of firsthand experience with them, but a lot of people really swear by them. I know a lot of people don't like Plugin Alliance as an example because their subscription program. Not that you don't like Plugin Alliance, you don't like subscriptions. That's what I meant to say. Plugin Alliance makes some fantastic plugins, really, really great plugins. Okay, and I think if there is a subscription model out there that is compelling to me, it's that one. I think that one is compelling and worth the money because of what you get at the end of the day. And at the end of the year, basically every penny that you spend over the course of the year, they turn around and give you right back to buy the plugins that you love the most. So how are you losing anything there? You know, the only downside, I guess you could say you're buying into the Plugin Alliance plugins, but there's only so many you're going to buy at the end of the year, right? And so... And then many plug-in manufacturers, like I'm a fan of what Universal Audio is doing right now. You know, as you can tell, all of my predictions are coming true. You know, I've made quite a few predictions on what Universal Audio's next moves are going to be, and maybe I've gotten lucky, or maybe I've got an effective crystal ball. I don't know. But just about every one of them, actually all of them, have come true so far. And they're doing exactly what they should be doing. And they're making the transition because for the longest time, Universal Audio was known as having the very best plugins that money could buy. And for a long time, that was absolutely true. There's no question about it. Absolutely true. Although you needed a boatload of their DSP horsepower to truly mix a session with all Universal Audio plugins. But the reality is that there were other plugin manufacturers that weren't touching them with a 10-foot pole. Well, that was then. That's not now. Many, if not most plugin manufacturers have caught up to them, if not surpassed them in many ways. There's only a handful of Universal Audio plugins today that I would say that they still, they dominate with. But for the most part, that's just not the case. And I think they realize that. And I think they realize that their future is in the native world, not in the DSP world. And so they're starting to port those over. They first started with the Spark subscription plan, and then now they ported over where you can buy them. Now they're still premium in cost. If you are going to invest in Universal Audio, they put together some decent packages that I think are worthy of your consideration if that's what you want. But I guess at the end of the day, it's not that I'm not recommending you don't buy plugins. I'm just saying, look, if you were to go into your operating system and find your plugin folder, whether you're on Windows or Mac, and you look at all of the plugins that you own, and then you sit and go through them, I bet you've got a lot. I bet you've got a lot for most people. There are some that are just getting started this is not going to apply to. But I bet you've got a lot. And I bet you the vast majority of them you don't use very much, if at all, okay? And so I know that's the case for me. Now, I don't want to sound like I'm standing up here saying I'm holier than thou and I don't make these mistakes. I guarantee I probably got more plugins in my plugin folder than you do, okay? I just, maybe it took me a bit too long to wise up, but I eventually wised up. And I said, you know what? This is nonsense. Yes, I love watching videos on new stuff. I love seeing new stuff come out. And of course, doing this particular aspect of my audio experience, I'm kind of compelled to look into those things. But I'm not always suggesting, look, if you've got a ton of compressors, why buy another one? Why buy another one? You probably only need a handful. I mean, if you think about it, I've got a lot of audio. Of course I've got audio. I'm kind of in the business of audio. But I've got a lot of hardware that I like using, and I love using hardware during tracking. And then when it's available for mixing, I do use it. But when I'm mixing, it's predominantly mostly plugins, And so I think you really only need, for mixing in general, you probably only need 3 different compressors, and that's about it. That's about all you need, nothing else. You probably need about 3 EQs, I'm sorry. This is for mixing I'm talking about, not your mix bus. 3 different EQs. I think if you get a solid Neve clone, a solid API clone, I think you're good to go, and a solid SSL, and I think you've got yourself covered. I think you could probably pick, as far as mixing is concerned, and get an SSL channel strip and have that be the core of just on every one of your tracks and make outstanding recordings, assuming you've tracked it well and you've recorded musicians that can actually play, okay? And then hopefully you've got a good song, all right? But regardless, I think you can get good sounding stuff with just about any tool these days. So, and as far as outside of that, you probably need a couple of delay plugins. I'm a huge fan of Soundtoys that covers just about everything there. You get Echo Boy, I think it's fantastic. And maybe another for just a little bit of variety, and then maybe 2 reverbs, okay? And I think that's it. That's all you need. You don't need anything beyond that for mixing, except for some specialty tools. As an example, probably if there's one plugin manufacturer out there, probably in the last 8 years or so, that I think, and it's really this is about the only one that I can think of that has put out plugins that I think that are compelling, that you need to add them to your arsenal, and that's FabFilter. I think their plugins are absolutely fantastic. They're not character plugins, but they're great, amazing tools, and they do a fantastic job. You're actually hearing quite a few of them on my voice right now. And so I'm a huge fan of that plugin collection. But, outside of that, there aren't many. You got to ask yourself, why does Waves come out with a plugin every 5 minutes? They're coming out with one every 5 minutes because they know they're going to sell it for $25, $30, and you're going to say, hey, that's only $25, $30. I can afford that. And then you add it and you use it for a little while, and you probably never go back to it, or you get the placebo effect, somehow thinking it's doing something it is probably not doing. That's going to make a difference. I'm talking about that's going to make a difference in your end recording, right? If you're just soloing a particular track and listening to it, you're not going to hear that distinction as it adds up. You're just not, for the most part. There's a few exceptions to that, but for the most part, that's not going to be the case. Look at it like subscription services for entertainment. You got Netflix, you got Hulu, you got Prime, you got Apple TV, you got Disney Plus, you got HBO, Showtime, blah, 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 blah. All of them, right? Well, hey, you start out with maybe Netflix, you get there, oh man, I love that Stranger Things. I got to have the Netflix, got to have it. And you get in there, okay, you pay, and it's only a few bucks, no big deal. I'll do that. I can afford that. Then all of a sudden, there's this next thing over on Amazon Prime. Well, I got to add Amazon Prime. Well, it's only a few bucks. I can afford that just looking at that. Well, hey, I got to have the new, Star Wars series they've got over there on Disney Plus. Well, then you add that one. Then, hey, they got the new Game of Thrones out. I got to go do that one, blah. And it just keeps on going and going and going. And yes, when you look at any one individual of them, it's not that much money a month. But you add them all together, and man, you've spent a lot of money. You're spending a lot of money every month, and you're hardly watching any of the content on the vast majority of those channels. All right. Now, you smart people out there, you younger kids have picked up on this much faster than these guys like me. You pay for Netflix for a month, you binge watch it, and then you cancel it. Okay, maybe that's a better way to do it. And so consider that as options. But you get my point. You can just keep adding on and adding on and adding on, and there's just no way in the world you're going to use that much variety. So I think you should think long and hard about where you need it. I think if you spent more of your time and energy on mastering your craft with the tools that you have, rather than to try to add new tools that are going to give you a quick fix. There's no quick and easy answer to any of this, none whatsoever. I think if you think for any 1 second that a lot of the famous mix engineers that we all know, love, and respect, if you think during their heyday, if you think they're sitting there thinking, I got to have this next piece of gear, I got to have this, I've got to have that plug-in. Oh, did you talk about that? I guarantee you those conversations never happened. Never happened. And many of them are selling their name out, like I said before, to other folks out there, and so just be cautious about that. If something is that cheap, you're probably getting exactly what you're paying for. In most examples, for example, Waves coming out with a new plugin every 5 minutes, all you're really buying at the end of the day is a pretty GUI. That's it. A pretty interface that's really not doing anything that your existing plugins won't already do for you. All right? And so that's just a hard, cold reality to it. And so consider these things. So do me a favor, leave some comments down below. Tell me what you think about it. I started this by saying you either love me or you hate me. Probably no middle ground at the end of the day. But this is one guy sitting in his studio talking to you sitting in yours, giving you my perspective. You can agree or disagree with me. That's fine. Let's just respectfully do it together, right? We don't always have to agree, but we should be respectful towards each other. So again, like I said in the beginning of this video, if you like the content I put out, do me a favor, hit that like, subscribe, notification bell, but most importantly, subscribe to this channel. Help me grow so I can keep putting out content for all you folks out there, all right? So next time, I hope every one of you have a great freaking day. Now stop buying plugins. I mean, really, just stop it. Stop it, okay? Got the message? Stop it! Bye-bye. Go away. Why are you still freaking here? Go away. Till next time, bye. Can't believe I hit the freaking space bar with my elbow. I'm having to re-record this whole video because I cut my freaking recording my audio off. I suck. I call myself a freaking recording engineer. I must be out of my freaking mind. Okay, anyway. I'm Barry Johns, and my eye has an eyelash in it, and it shouldn't be there. Let me try this again. All right, here we go. 35th time, I guess. I don't freaking know. I'm Barry Johnson. This is Studio Talk. Today, you're probably, daggone it, that eye is bugging the living daylights out of me. Between my eye messing up on me and a scratchy throat, having to stop and get my big gulp over here. And that's a Mag Daddy big gulp right there. Full of agua, baby. Anyway, let's blow my nose. Excuse me for a second while I deal with some problems. Okay. That's what everybody wants to see, me blowing my freaking nose. All right, I didn't think so. Oh, well, what are we gonna do? All right, anyway. All right, here we go. Gotta do that again. Oh, shoot. The life of a popular YouTuber. Give me a break.